All right, shalom, shalom. First and foremost, giving all praises, honor, and glory to our Heavenly Father, Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Racha, Kadash. Double honors to the apostles, elders, and bishops of the great millstone who the rule and teach well. Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Barakatham. Peace and blessings, salutations as always to the hopefully elect out there, listening and learning. So back in the spirit with another lesson. And over there in the so-called Middle East, Western Asia, we see that things are intensifying since Israel made that move to launch a so-called preemptive strike on Iran. I think it was Friday. Things have pretty much exploded in that region. You have ballistic missiles, hypersonic missiles being launched at a very high rate, all right? To where it really looks like it's the apocalypse going on over there. And see, this is an omen of things to come, of what is going to occur even right here in Babylon the Great, in the beast system as a whole. But you see it happening over there in that land because ultimately that's where that's where the Battle of Armageddon is going to go down. All right, in that so-called Middle East region, that's where Yahweh Shai is going to return with the hosts of heaven to do battle with these heathens, to put them down. So these missiles that you see falling down from the sky, all right, one day you will look up and it's going to be the same thing in the skies of America, Babylon the Great, because it is also biblical prophecy that America will also see these strange rains as well. Let's go to Wisdom of Solomon chapter 16, and we'll get verse 16. All right, because the scriptures speak about the strange rains and the arrows. Wisdom of Solomon 16 and 16. For the ungodly that denied to know thee were scourged by the strength of thine arm. With strange rains, hails, and showers were they persecuted, that they could not avoid, and through fire were they consumed. Okay, so the Lord in these times is bringing down his judgment upon the earth. When you read 2nd Ezra, the 9th chapter, it speaks about when you see the signs come to pass, right, that the Lord warned us of before, pursuant to biblical prophecy. All right, and part of that are the arrows being shot off, the missiles. All right, very soon it's going to be nuclear missiles that are going to be shot off from one end of the earth to the other. Okay, and to substantiate that, let's go to the book of 2nd Ezra, the 16th chapter, right? Because see, all these things that we go into through the Spirit are all outlined in biblical prophecy, which is the testimony of our Lord Yahweh Shai, whom the world calls Christ. This is 2nd Ezra 16 in verse 13. It's like, let's start up at 12. The earth quaketh, and the foundations thereof. The sea ariseth up with waves from the deep, and the waves of it are troubled, and the fishes thereof also before the Lord, and before the glory of his power. For strong is his right hand that bendeth the bow. His arrows that he shooteth are sharp, and shall not miss when they begin to be shot into the ends of the world. And see, you have to understand, right, that these missiles that are being shot off right now, these are instruments of the Lord's indignation. The Lord put the spirit on these nations to create these hypersonic missiles, these rockets, these highly explosive devices, ultimately because this is the medium in which the Lord is going to use for these nations to destroy each other. Then Yahweh Shah is going to come back in the midst of these nations in World War III, and he's going to finish them off. All right, but it says here, right, in verse 13, for strong is his hand that bendeth the bow. His arrows are sharp, that he shooteth are sharp, and shall not miss when they begin to be shot into the ends of the world. Now, I don't care how strong of an archer that you are, all right, an archer cannot shoot an arrow from, for example, from China to France. All right, that's physically impossible. All right, so these arrows that the scripture is going into here are referring to the ICBM nuclear missiles. All right, and when these things begin to be shot into the ends of the world, that's it. All right, you read down 14, behold, the plagues are sent. All right, and these arrows, these ICBM nuclear missiles, those are part of the plagues as well, and shall not return again until they come upon the earth. The fire is kindled and shall not be put out. till it consumed the foundations of the earth. And with those ICBM nuclear missiles also come fire. Okay, as we read in Wisdom of Solomon 16, right, that fire shall consume them. Okay, that's a direct result of these ICBM missiles being shot off into the ends of the earth. All right. So all these things that you're seeing, man, see, again, this is an omen of things to come. All right, and I uploaded a video earlier today in which there's a lot of clips going out from people that are on the ground in Israel and Iran that are recording these missiles touching down, and you would be shocked to see the amount of devastation that's going on in these lands. And see, this is why you've had a movement of the small hats leaving the land. All right, going into Europe, going in, coming to America. All right, which that doesn't fulfill biblical prophecy, because when you read the scriptures, it tells you that when the true Israelites come back into the land, that what? No one would make them afraid, and that they would dwell in peace. So if they're the people, why are they afraid? Why are they constantly in fear of their lives? Okay, why are they fleeing that land in droves? That's supposed to be the fulfillment of the promise, right? But they're leaving the land. So make it make sense. All right, so hey, somebody's lying here. All right, and it's not Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. All right, those rats, those devils over there, those small hats, they are the imposters. Okay, they don't belong over there. That's why the Lord is rooting them out of that land, because they have defiled it. Okay, now let's go here. All right, Russia, China, North Korea, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey have all come out in support of Iran in this conflict. And see, these are the nations that are aligned in the BRICS. Okay, so what you see happening right now between Israel and Iran, we've told you through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Shai that this is eventually going to leak out into a broader scale war. Okay, when you read Jeremiah the 49th chapter, verse 20, it tells you that the least of the flock, which is Israel, all right, the youngest nation among the Western powers, they are going to lead out these nations here: Russia, China, North Korea, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey. Okay, which Turkey right now currently is a member of NATO. But we've seen over the last 2 or 3 years that they've expressed interest to leave NATO and join the BRICS alliance. And that's what's going to happen according to biblical prophecy, and we'll get that. All right, but let's check this video out.
News: Russia, China, North Korea, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey have all come out in support of Iran in this conflict. All of these countries have also condemned Israel. Specifically, Russia, North Korea, and Pakistan have pledged to supply Iran with military equipment. Saudi Arabia has announced it will close its airspace to Israeli jets, preventing them from using it to launch attacks on Iran. However, Iranian jets will be allowed to use Saudi airspace. Turkey, the most powerful country in the region, has also come out to show full support for Iran. Turkey is ready to supply Iran with ammunition or whatever Iran needs to keep going. The situation between Iran and Israel is getting worse and escalating very fast. Russia's President, Vladimir Putin, initially offered to mediate peace talks but later withdrew that offer. China and North Korea have also expressed their support for Iran. Notably, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un stated that his country is ready, immediately, to provide air defense for Tehran and Iran against the Israeli Air Force. Breaking.
Yeah, so you see it's going down. Let's get the blue letter, all right? And let's get Jeremiah 49, okay? Because brothers go into this scripture often, but this is exactly what is playing out before your very eyes. Jeremiah 49 and verse 20. It says, "Therefore hear the counsel of the Lord, that he has taken against Edom," okay, which those small hats that are over there in the land, those are Amalekites, okay, Edomites from the tribe of Amalek, right? And his purpose is that he has purposed against the inhabitants of Teman, also another tribe of Edom, surely the least of the flock, which are the Israelis, the small hats, okay, the so-called Jews, all right, shall draw them out, okay, shall draw these nations out here, okay. This is what you're seeing take place. Surely he shall make their habitations desolate with them. The earth is moved at the noise of their fall, at the cry, the noise thereof was heard in the Red Sea. Behold, he shall come up and fly as the eagle and spread his wings over Bozrah. And at that day shall the heart of the mighty men of Edom be as the heart of a woman in her pains. So this is the time that we are in. Okay, the Lord is putting a spirit on the small hats to basically bring about their own destruction, because when you look at this whole conflict that's escalated over the past few days, the small hats, they initiated the whole conflict. Iran didn't strike first. Israel struck first. And they called that a preemptive strike. Okay, because they believed that Iran was going to attack them. So they pretty much, threw the first punch, so to speak. But look at how it's going to turn out. This thing is going to spiral out of control. It already is out of control. Okay? You had America come out initially and say that we have no involvement, which that's all a lie. Because if America was to make it known that they had involvement with the bombing of Iran, then all the American embassies within Iran would have been wiped out. Okay, so they got to keep it kind of hush hush right now. But Iran already knows what's going on, because behind the small hats, America is always there. All right, so you best believe that right now Iran, along with their allies, they're making preparations to come against America, Babylon the Great, the whore. Okay, so we're in a very critical time right now. Let's get Ezekiel 38. Okay, these alliances you see that are forming, it's all biblical prophecy. Okay, this is what the Lord wants. Ezekiel 38 and verse 1, prophecy about Gog and future invasion of Israel. You see that? So the small hats, they're going to be invaded. Okay, and the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Gog. Okay, which modern day Gog are the Russians. Okay, the land of Magog, which the land of Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. Okay, Russia, and prophesy against him. So the Lord is against Russia, but he's using them for the sake of prophecy to fulfill this third world war, this destruction that's coming. Verse 3, and say, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. And I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth, and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. Okay, so the Lord's going to put, you see, this is why the Lord has raised these nations up. Okay, and when you look into it historically, Russia and the West have always been at odds. Okay, they've never really been aligned. And again, that's all, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashmel Shai, because to fulfill prophecy in these last days. Okay, if Russia and America and NATO and the EU were aligned, then prophecy couldn't be fulfilled, man. So this is all from the Lord. Verse 5, Persia, which is modern day Iran, Ethiopia, and Libya with them. Okay, so these nations are under the protection of Russia and China, all right, and those Eastern kings, right? You can Google this yourself. All these nations are aligned unto Russia, all of them with shield and helmet. So they too are going to go to battle. They too are going to be drawn into this third world war, all right? Gomer, which is Turkey. Now, just like how we saw Turkey, all right, they're also going to give support to Iran, okay, which again, Turkey, they're a part of NATO, right, which that's pretty much violating the NATO alliance to help your enemies. But see, Turkey's already of the mindset that they're done with NATO, all right, and really any day now, Turkey's going to separate and they're going to align themselves with Russia, because Turkey can see, especially what's going on in the land of Israel with the whole Gaza situation. They've been very outspoken against that, and they see that Israel doesn't have that much longer left. Okay, and they also see that America is going down as well. So Turkey's about to get with the winning team, all right, and they're going to leave NATO and align themselves with the BRICS. That's biblical prophecy. Okay, Gomer, Turkey, and all his bands, the house of Togarmah of the north quarters, and all his bands, and many people with thee. Be thou prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. See, so Russia, Turkey, China, all right, they're guards to these smaller nations, okay? And Iran is one of those nations that they're guarding, as it says in verse 5, Persia, okay? So this is why America, Israel, they really can't just run up in Persia like that because they know, that if they make it known, although they've already made the strike, all right, so now they got to deal with it. But in past times, they were trying to covertly figure out ways to destroy Iran, but they haven't been able to do it. Now the whole preemptive strike that Israel performed on Iran was all because of Iran not wanting to make a deal on its nuclear program. Okay, which again, the Lord is the one that's raising these nations up to defy Esau, to defy the West. Okay, to bring about this final destruction, this final war of Armageddon. Where was I at? Yeah, be thou prepared and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. And after many days thou shalt be visited. In the latter years thou shalt come into the land that is brought back from the sword, and is gathered out of many people against the mountains of Israel, which have been always waste. But it is brought forth out of the nations, and they shall dwell safely, all of them. All right. So at the end, after the Lord destroyed them heathens out the land, Israel, Yasha'Allah, is going to dwell safely. Okay, which again, that does not speak to the people that are there right now because they're dwelling in fear. All right, they're dwelling in complete terror. You see, they don't really have any, assurance of normalcy, man. All right, that whole so-called Middle East region is on fire right now. Okay, and they're about to go to war. All right, Bibi Netanyahu, okay, he's about to destroy his own people, man. All right, China's UN envoy condemns Israeli strikes on Iran. Okay, so you see that China is coming out. They're being outspoken against the actions of the small hats against their ally Iran. All right, and I saw an article earlier that Iran, made a request from China to receive military assistance, and Russia as well. We just gotta wait and see what happens. But we know, according to biblical prophecy, that these things are going to be fulfilled. That they are going to step in on the behalf of Iran to come against the small hats. All right. It says here, China condemns Israel's violation of Iran's sovereignty, security, and territorial integrity, and urges Israel to immediately stop all risky military actions. China's UN ambassador Fu Kong said, China opposes the intensification of contradictions and the expansion of conflicts and is deeply concerned about the consequences that may be brought about by Israel's actions. Fu was quoted as saying at a meeting held by the UN Secretary Council on the Middle East situation on Friday. It says China is seriously concerned about the negative impact of the current developments on diplomatic negotiations on the Iranian nuclear issue. Israel launched large-scale strikes against Iran early on Friday, saying it was the start of a prolonged operation to prevent Tehran from building an atomic weapon. Okay, which no doubt if the Iranians don't already have ICBMs, then they're going to get them from Russia and China, their allies. Okay, and they are going to be used. All right, these weapons weren't created just to sit in the silos and collect dust. No, they were created to be used one day. All right, and Israel is going to continue to provoke these nations until that's exactly what happens. All right, why you think these devils have underground bunkers right now in Israel? Them devils, they're operating from underneath the ground. Okay, they have underground command centers in which they're running these operations behind the scenes. Okay, because they already know that things are already bad and will get much worse. Iran launched retaliatory airstrikes on Friday night, with explosions heard in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, the country's two largest cities. China has issued advisories to its citizens in Israel and Iran of the, quote, complex and severe security situation in those countries. adding a warning to those in Israel to prepare for possible missile and drone attacks. Then when you go here, all right, this is from Al Jazeera. Will Russia, Turkey, and China provide support to Iran in this conflict? Okay, now as we just read in Ezekiel 38, according to biblical prophecy, they will. All right, Moscow, Ankara, and Beijing have condemned Israel's attacks on Iran. It is a conflict that has the potential to ignite the entire Middle East. And, there is no such thing as the Middle East. The beloved elder Malcolm always goes into it, but it's actually Western Asia. And when you check out the news broadcasts that are actually from that region, they don't say the Middle East. Okay, they say Western Asia. Okay, so Middle East is a made up pseudo term by Esau to pretty much justify racial superiority and ambiguity and throw off history. Okay, but that's another lesson for another time. Israel has been attacking Iran, saying Tehran's nuclear program poses an existential threat. Iran, for its part, has responded with a barrage of retaliatory attacks, right? But now, what role can the global community play? China, Russia, and Turkey have condemned Israel's actions. Beijing and Moscow maintain economic and political ties with both Iran and Israel. So what, if anything, can these powers do to end the conflict? And is there a shift in dynamics in the region? And there's nothing that they can do. Okay, because really the Lord is forcing their hand, man. See, this is the judgment of Yahweh Bashmil Shai that's coming down. So they got to play into what is written. All right, plain and simple. They have to play into what is written, man. All right, let's go Daniel, the 4th chapter. Okay, because these nations are not in control. They're pretty much pawns on the chessboard, and the Lord is moving them. All right, Daniel 4:17, and it reads, "This matter is by the decree of the watchers, and the demand by the word of the holy ones, to the intent that the living may know that the Most High ruleth in the kingdom of men, and giveth it to whomsoever he will, and setteth up over it the basis of men," which the basis of men are the Edomites, the so-called white Caucasian race. Okay, they are the basis of men, and the Lord has raised them up to rule over the planet Earth. Okay, remember Esau was given that secondary blessing by his father Isaac. Okay, to what? Have the fatness of the earth, to have the dew of heaven. Okay, to live by the sword. Right, the Lord gave Esau that as a consolation. Okay, to what he has now. And everything that he has, he's gotten by the sword. Okay, bloodshed, lies, deceit, okay, rape, robbery, murder. That's how this man has subdued the entire planet Earth. And this is why he feels as though he can just go around and tell these nations what they're gonna do with their resources, and how they're gonna run their nations, man. Okay, Esau believes that all nations, all the families of the earth have to answer to him. But we're in a time now where the Lord has put a different spirit on these nations to pretty much say to hell with Esau, because ultimately this man is the devil, okay? And he himself is a hypocrite. He has no authority to tell anybody how to run their nations when he himself can't even run his own damn nations, man. All right, so hey, as it is written, the joy of the hypocrite is but for a moment. And this is why the Lord is raising these nations up in the spirit to eliminate the Edomite from out the earth. All right. Then matter of fact, yeah, let's watch a little bit of this video.
In a world where the news never ends, understanding what's behind the headlines is more important than ever.
Will Russia, Turkey and China provide support to Iran in its conflict with Israel? The three countries have condemned Israel's actions, but is that enough? And what do they all stand to lose if the conflict spirals out of control? This is Inside Story. Hello, welcome to the programme. I'm Adrian Finnegan. It is a conflict that has the potential to ignite the entire Middle East. Israel has been attacking Iran, saying that Tehran's nuclear programme poses an existential threat. Iran, for its part, has responded with a barrage of retaliatory attacks while insisting that its nuclear programme is for peaceful purposes. But now, with the two sides launching missiles and drones at each other, what role can the global community play? China, Russia and Turkey have condemned Israel's actions and called for diplomacy. Beijing and Moscow maintain economic and political ties with both Iran and Israel. So, what, if anything, can these powers do to end the conflict? And is there a shift in dynamics in the region? We'll put that to our guests in just a moment. But first, Imogen Kimber reports.
Israel continues to target Iran. And Iran is returning fire, hitting Tel Aviv and other cities. As the battle intensifies, major global and regional powers, including China, Russia and Turkey, have spoken out against Israel, who initiated the conflict.
Vladimir Putin condemned Israel's military operation against Iran and expressed serious concern about a possible escalation of the conflict, which would have unpredictable consequences for the entire situation in the Middle East.
Russia backed Iran in supporting Syria's former leader Bashar al-Assad, and it sees Iran as a counterbalance to US influence in the Middle East. But Moscow also has ties with Israel. After calling the Iranian and Israeli leaders, Russian President Vladimir Putin spoke to US President Donald Trump. Both agreed that negotiations on Iran's nuclear program should continue. There was also a phone call between the Chinese and Israeli foreign ministers, in which China said Israel violated Iran's sovereignty. China has ties with Israel and Iran. Tehran is part of China's Belt and Road project, and Beijing is one of Israel's biggest trading partners.
The sudden escalation of the regional situation does not serve the interests of any party. The Chinese side calls on relevant parties to take actions that promote regional peace and stability and to avoid further escalation of tensions. The Chinese side is willing to play a constructive role in easing the situation.
Turkey, which is a major critic of Israeli policies, said its actions show a disregard for international law, and that Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu is dragging the region and the world into disaster.
You see that? So everybody sees where this is going, man. All right, Prime Minister of Turkey, Erdogan, said that Netanyahu, he's dragging the world into disaster, which is what? World War III, all right? The third woe, as the scriptures speak about. Let's get that real quick. Right, because the second woe is past and the third woe cometh quickly. Right, Revelation 11 and 14. The second woe was past, okay, which the second woe was World War II, which was about 80-something years ago, which in the grand scheme of things, on the Most High's timeline, is not even 1 hour. Okay, so that was fairly recently in the timeline of Yahweh Basham Shai, but you know, down here on earth, you know, it may seem like a long time ago. But the second woe was past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. Okay, so the third world's war, the third destruction, that's what woe goes into, come quickly. Okay, if you go to Amos, the 3rd chapter, and verse 6, it says, shall a trumpet be blown in the city, and the people not be afraid? Shall there be evil in the city, and the Lord hath not done it? Surely the Lord Yahweh will do nothing, but he revealeth his secret unto his servants the prophets. And this is why before the final destruction comes, the Lord always sends his prophets to warn the people. Okay, in the time of Noah, the Lord set up Noah to preach and prophesy for 120 years before the final destruction came. Okay, but when the Lord withdrew Noah and put him inside the ark, that's when the destruction came, right? So the time is also coming where the prophets, they're going to, you know, be removed, and the warning is going to stop going out. Okay, and when that happens, that's when people should really be afraid, because at that point, that means that there's no more need for the prophets to be around, because the whole point of the prophets being on the scene is to warn you before these things happen. Okay, but when the Lord, you know, as we see now, The brother watching this video earlier, Staying the Spirit 144, he brought out that in New York right now, there's Mayor Eric Adams. He's pretty much looking to pass policy to pretty much ban all anti-Sem talking points, okay, which is going to trickle down to the prophets, right, which is going to justify throwing brothers in jail, taking brothers off the streets, and persecution is ultimately going to come down, as the scriptures say, that the devil shall cast some of you into prison. Okay, so these are the times that we're in, man. The Lord is about to remove the prophets, and that destruction is going to come. Okay, because when the prophets ain't out there no more, that's when you know that the real hell is about to come down, man, because there's nothing more to say. There's nothing more to warn you of. At that point, you're going to be in the midst of the destruction. Understand? So this is why the Lord sends his men out to warn, okay, but as really mercy, okay? The Lord sends his men out as mercy, before he brings his final destruction, so that you're not going to have an excuse to say that you didn't know. All right? But the Lord is responsible for these things, man. Okay, evil, good and evil all come from Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. All right? So then when you go to Jeremiah, the 9th chapter, all right, because this was coming on the earth, man. Jeremiah 9, and let's go to 24. Matter of fact, let's start at verse 22. It says, "Speak, thus saith the Lord, even the carcasses of men shall fall as dung upon the open field, and as the handful of the harvestmen, and none shall gather them. Thus saith the Lord, let not the wise man glory in his wisdom, neither let the mighty man glory in his might. Let not the rich man glory in his riches, but let him that glorieth glory in this, that he understandeth and knoweth me, that I am the Lord which exercise loving kindness, judgment, and righteousness." See? "In the earth, for in these things I delight, saith the Lord." See? So the Lord delights in loving kindness and judgment and righteousness. Okay? So again, good and evil, all right, come from Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, man. And the Lord delights to do these things, man. And right now we're in a time of judgment. Okay? Mercy is leaving the earth. All right, the doors of the spiritual ark are being closed, and this is a sign, all right, for you Jakes, for you tribes out there, to get yourself right and stop playing games, man, because you can clearly see what's going on, that things are getting very bad, things are, very chaotic right now, and from day to day, anything can go down. All right, so you want to have that hedge of protection from the Lord to be able to endure and make it through. You see? It says, verse 25, "Behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will punish all them which are circumcised with the uncircumcised." Okay? So all the wicked are going to be judged, man. All right? So, if you ain't got the blood of the Lamb, then you're going to be a casualty, okay, for these wars, because also war drafts are coming back. You know what I'm saying? These wars are about to jump off full scale, and you're about to see many more war fronts open up. Okay? The next one it's going to pop off is China-Taiwan, okay, which that's going to be a direct conflict between China and America. Okay, and of course from that, Russia's going to get involved, and it's going to be out of control, man. Okay, but before this third world war happened, this is what is going to come to pass. Okay, the implementation of the MOTB, which is the RFID microchip. All right, the elder Yashawamba, okay, went into watching some of his video earlier. He was going into this same very thing. That's a spirit. But check this out. Russia launching digital ID super app inspired by Chinese WeChat. So you see that there's a trend within the earth that everything is going digital. They're moving towards digital IDs, digital currency, digital forms of payment. Okay, and it's all going to be tied to your biometrics. Okay, so this right here, Russia is introducing a new digital identity super app that will combine messaging, government and private services, e-signatures, and digital IDs. What's more, the multifunctional app will have to come pre-installed on smartphones. Okay, so if you buy an iPhone now, you have certain apps that are already pre-installed on the phone when you get it. So they want this app to be the same very thing, the same very way. Like if you get a new phone, this app already is going to be on there, and you're going to have to use it to function within society, man. This is where we're going, okay? Which again shows you, if you're in the spirit, you can see where all this is going. You can see that this is leading towards Revelation 13 to 16 on down, okay? So they're going to come, this app is going to come pre-installed on smartphones, tablets, and other devices sold in Russia as of September 1st, 2025. Okay, so this is very close to being rolled out, all right, in Russia. It's already running in China. No doubt it's going to be the same thing in India and all these other nations, man. We've gone into the lesson showing you that the whole world is going towards this. It says a law on combining functionalities of state, Slovakia, financial and commercial digital services in a single application was adopted by the State Duma on Tuesday. The app will be more than a national messenger, allowing users to confirm their age at the supermarket cashier or check into a hotel without presenting paper documents. We have clearly defined its characteristics and security requirements, he says. I have no doubt this is the right step towards strengthening our digital sovereignty. Okay, this is why the Lord going to destroy all these nations, man, because they're all against him. Okay, and there's a thing of what you have, the theater of war. Okay, because well, I don't really want to get into that. I don't really want to get too off topic, but you know, bottom line is these nations, they're all on one accord, but there are certain, you know, things in which they're divided to why they're going to end up fighting. Okay, but they all want this NWO. They're just disagreeing at the top over land disputes, over who's going to have, you know, what portion of this, and you know, just you know, division amongst the house of Esau, man. Okay, but ultimately they all want the same thing, you know. Okay, the newly adopted bill states that the government will select the organization in charge of the project. The company will need to be a Russian legal entity with an online platform of more than 500,000 daily users inside the country. Platforms such as these are required by law to monitor and censor content. So that, you know, this is going to be made law, all right? If you're going to want to function in Russian society, then you're going to have to take this. And the same thing going to come to America, man. You know, they already setting it up. Okay, the infrastructure is already here to roll this thing out. Okay, all Esau's waiting on is his, you know, great blackout event. Okay, to where he's gonna go lights out, the grid is gonna go out, and from that, the banks are gonna collapse. People are gonna lose everything, and the solution is gonna be when it comes back on. Okay, now you need to take this. You know what I'm saying? We have this WorldCoin, we have this digital ID. Scan your eyeball, scan your palm vein. You know what I'm saying? Just you know, take this chip, this Neuralink in your forehead, or this, you know, Walletmore in your right hand, and you can be good again. Okay, this is where it's going. All right, check this out, because they also got the same thing for newborns. Right, check it out. Infant ID system can effectively address child swaps, trafficking, integrated biometrics. Okay, so they, you know, they're doing this in the name of what? Peace and safety. All right. Well, we have all of these, you know, children going missing. You know, every other day you got an Amber Alert. You know what I'm saying? There's child trafficking going on. You know, which these Edomites, they're at the forefront of that. All right, these high level elites, they pretty much run, especially the small hats, Amalek. They run the child trafficking trade, man. But they're the same very ones, okay, through these banks that are gonna roll out these tracking systems, okay. But you know, now they're putting it out there as a peace and safety measure for infants, okay, so that, you know, wherever they go, you know, you're not going to have a problem with your child going missing, because you're going to know where they are. You know what I'm saying? You can track them. All right, this is all a ploy to get people to buy into this digital system, this digital beast system. Okay, this is the infant ID platform features fingerprint scanners developed by Akiyama, which together with an SDK makeup integrated biometrics. Infant IB holds the license for infant ID outside of Brazil. says Gavrilowski said the system is the go-to solution for addressing problems like child swaps in hospitals or child trafficking across borders. You see that? Which again, these devils, they know all about it. Okay, but in order to get you, in order to destroy you, they're gonna say, yeah, well, this is the safer way to where you'll know where your child is at all times. You know what I'm saying? Just like how they put chips, into your pets and things like that. You can track them. All right. They want to do the same thing with human beings. This system allows countries and hospitals to link a child to their mother using their fingerprint biometrics. We can now guarantee that when a baby leaves the hospital the next day, they are going home with the correct parent. Madness, man. We're also the first company able to perform a one-to-many fingerprint match from birth up to 12 months of age. This means we can confirm that a 1-year-old child is the same individual born on a specific day and time. And why do you need this? Okay, this is why birth certificates exist, right? But see, a physical birth certificate is no longer good enough. Okay, now this thing has to be on the grid. Now you have to be tracked, traced, monitored at all times. As Yuval Harari said, we must surveil them underneath the skin. Okay, which that whole talking point goes back to, well, even before the whole pandemic, this is what they've been wanting to do, but hardcore, they start talking about it around 2020. Okay, where they start scanning people's foreheads and scanning their hand to get their temperature with the that whole thing was all a psyop. Okay, to get you into what you see being rolled out now. All right. So now they're going to be able to confirm that a 1-year-old child is the same individual born on a specific day and time. That when they leave the hospital the next day, now we can know that this is the same exact child. Okay. Really, this is all madness, but what more can you expect from the devil? All right, that's the current capability of our technology, he added. All right, it says, check this out. Garowski disclosed that as they continue to develop the technology, their idea is to extend this matching capability beyond the infancy stage. You see? So this, hey, look, through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashmi Oshai, we've been telling you, man. Okay. First they start with animals, then they're gonna go to the infants, then they're gonna go to full-grown adults. Okay, that's why here saying this is gonna go beyond the infancy stage. It's a challenge because a baby's fingerprint changes as they grow, but we've achieved very high match rates from birth to 1 year. We're conducting global studies, in partnership with multiple universities to explore how far we can extend this technology. So you pretty much get the point, man. Okay, this is where the devil is going. This is where all the nations on the earth are going, because this is nothing more than the new technological Tower of Babel. Okay, they're all coming together, okay, speaking one language, with one goal in mind, and that's to defy Yahweh Bashmi Oshai and set up an eternal rulership on the earth for the heathen, to where they can subvert Yahweh Bashmi Oshai's judgment. But it's not going to happen. Okay, so now let's go to Daniel 8:25. Okay, because these things are going to be made law. Okay, right now it's pretty much a policy, but they're going to be mandated very soon. All right, and this is what we need to happen before full-scale World War III breaks out. Okay, Daniel 8:25, and it says, and through his policy also he shall cause craft. Okay, which going into that article, you saw that it was a very crafty, very crafty devised plan. Oh, we can stop child trafficking, and we can know, that this is the same baby that belongs to this parent, and we can track and take the fingerprint. Okay, all that is crafty counsel, man. Okay, shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace. Okay, same thing was going into in that article, peace and safety, right? We got to protect the children, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. Okay, so these devils, they're attempting to stand up against Yahweh Bashmi Oshai, but what? They're going to be broken. Okay, their desire is going to perish, and ultimately their memory and their seed is going to be rooted out of the earth soon come. You know, call Halal Yahweh Bashmil Shai. We can close out in Revelation 13th chapter, all right? Revelation 13:16. And he causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads. You know what I'm saying? And they came out recently with a chip for prisoners, saying that pretty much if the prisoners take this chip, that they'll be able to do their sentence. So, you know, if you got like 25 to life, you know, these devils came out and said if you take the Neuralink, then you'll be able to complete your sentence within a certain amount of time. So you won't actually have to do the 25 to life, because you'll be able to experience the pain and pretty much learn your lesson of the pain that you've inflicted upon the family of the victim who you deleted, or whatever the case may be, that you've wronged. All right, so this is going to be an incentive being put out there even to those that are free and bond. Okay, if you're in the so-called free world, or if you're a prisoner locked up in jail, all right, rich and poor, you see small and great, celebrity, or you know what I'm saying, you're just an average Joe out here, everybody's going to be caused to get this thing, okay, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. Okay, which again is that RFID microchip that's going to go in your right hand, on your forehead. These things are already on the scene. Okay, so through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashmil Shai, Lord willing, this lesson was edifying. In closing, call Halal Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai Ba'ashem Rakakadash. Until next time, Lord willing, shalom to the elect. Come Yashala wa Babu Shalom.